I said 12 points to the Springboks. I said I'd take 1 point. They took me seriously again, Zels. Never in doubt, though.
Never in doubt, mate. Not for 1 second did we think they weren't going to win that.
Not for 1 second did I think England would score a try. I can tell you that much.
Mate.
Do you know what they did to us? They took the worst type of Bok rugby and were brilliant at it.
Yeah, very, very good.
They kicked the ball 41 times out of hand. I don't think it went past Farrell. They just didn't want to play any rugby. They killed us in that aerial bomb kicking. And it was called one of the greatest English performances.
How ironic.
One of heroes. And you got to admit, the English love a heroic defeat more than they love
way more
a victory.
Way more.
I mean, this is everything that England wanted. They left Stade de France heroes.
This is everything they wanted.
Heroes.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it ironic? They chased Eddie out of town because he wasn't playing the beautiful game. Even though he had that great win streak, obviously things went south. But then they applaud Botha for this one, where it's basically just playing Bok rugby. And all credit to them. And I mean, Rassie and the guys will look at those numbers and know they got out of jail there, because if you look at the stats, the way that they kick more than the Boks, the way that the shape of that game, the way it flowed out, more often than not you lose if you're on the wrong end of those stats.
Especially in those conditions. But they were playing England, and it's an England side that really hasn't fired. And an England side that, when you kind of weigh it all up, they were just never good enough to get the win. They never looked like they were going to score 5 points. And here's an interesting stat as well. 44-21 in 1999. That was when Yanni de Beer scored 5 drop goals and kicked 34 points in the game. England, 21 points all came via the boot. And then we look 36-0, 2007. They didn't get a point. 15-6 in the final, didn't get a try. And 16-15, they didn't get a try either. So we've played them in a pool game, in a quarterfinal, and in a semi-final at the Stade de France, and they still haven't got a try. You gotta love it, mate.
So you say that should be the objective when we meet them at the next World Cup. Don't worry about the result. Just focus on get a try, guys.
You know what I think is, I looked at Sir Clive Woodward beforehand, haven't found him afterwards. But what would have hurt them more? 30 points or just 1 point? It was just scripted. It was written by the rugby gods that we would win that way. And, I'm very superstitious when I watch a rugby game. I'm very superstitious when I watch sport. And I had to do basically a live Sunday Times column. They had to get it on final whistle, which I thought would be easy given the Boks were going to clean these guys up. And it's like, this intro could change depending on the last 2 minutes.
Never used the backspace so much.
So little Pike was in a fort, asleep 10 minutes into the game, and Gil was on the couch. But it's the first time that's just been her and I watching a game during this World Cup, not with other people there, or it's normally me on my own. And after 40 minutes, I had to shift her upstairs. She said, I'm feeling a bit tight. Go now, go. I was maneuvering my laptop around, changing the chairs, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And then when we got that scrum penalty, I took off out of that lounge onto the deck, like sprinting, like, yes, baby.
Yeah.
And then he still had to do the kick. Oof. And then the kick went over. I went for another sprint, okay? And then when that final whistle went, I think I may have even sprinted faster than Vinnie LaRue to get to the action, to send that copy, and to say, Boga! Not by 10, but just by 1.
1 is enough.
Yeah.
Mate, that penalty. I mean, he banged it over, I think, with 25 seconds left on the shot clock.
And it went over by about 25 meters as well.
Just, wow.
So we go back to Andre Pollard. We said it from the beginning. There's several shows. Pollard would make it to the World Cup, and he would be a defining factor. Never doubt class. Never, ever doubt Andre Pollard. Not at World Cups. If you want to go play Barbarians rugby, have a second think about whether you want him there. But when it comes to World Cups, when it comes to World Cup playoffs, this guy has done it time and again. He's 10 from 10 since arriving at the World Cup. And he's Bantu monster 50-meter penalties to take us through the quarterfinals and the semifinals. Andre Pollard.
Laser-sighted.
Andre Pollard.
Yeah.
I mean, just a magnificent performance, and the leadership he's shown as well.
Yeah.
We know we got out of jail there, but thank goodness we did, because England would be no match for the All Blacks at the moment, because that blueprint that England plays could have worked on a wet night in France against us. It's not going to work against the All Blacks. And we will also play a totally different game against the All Blacks. You know, I see Jacques Nienaber has said 30 plus points to win this World Cup final. It's going to be an expansive game. We're going to look at our team selections. We're going to discuss them. We spoke in the last week. We were surprised that they went with a 5-3 split. We thought they'd go 6-2, definitely. We were also surprised that they didn't make tweaks to the lineup, given how taxing and exhausting that quarterfinal, that epic quarterfinal win against France was. And it nearly came back and bit them in the backside.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Second game in a row, I felt like that now. You know, I felt like we could have beaten France by more with the right selections, and I do feel like we could have beaten England by more with the right selections. Bottom line is they won. We're back to the final. Regardless of what happens on Saturday, and nobody wants to talk about this, but regardless of what happens on Saturday, Boks have gone to back-to-back finals. That is nothing to sniff at. It's an incredible feat, and they said they were going to do it, and by hook or by crook, they've done it.
Give me the raw.
No raw today, mate. Ricky doesn't have a voice.
Give me the raw.
Ricky doesn't have a voice. He's out of town celebrating.
Give me the raw.
There's no raw. There's no raw today. No one wants to see Ricky again.
And give me some insight. Just add something to the show.
Let me tell you this. let me make a contribution. So this match against the All Blacks, we go into this thing having smashed them the last time we played them. The All Blacks have come alive again. I mean, look, I've picked everybody to win this World Cup, but I'm sure if you go back far enough in the show, I've said that the All Blacks are going to be there, and they are now a team that has confidence. You know, the doubt factor, we've allowed them to sort of revive themselves. So we are in for something massive this weekend. The one thing that I did take out of the last weekend, which I thought was worth a giggle, was Wayne Barnes has been lined up to do this final from forever.
Who does he hate less?
Mate, but can you imagine him shouting, sitting there in his undies, having a puff, watching the final, and shouting for the Boks to win? Because if England did it, mate,
Ben O'Keefe gets the final.
He wasn't going to be there.
Ben O'Keefe, what did you make of his officiating?
Mate, very interesting. But in a way, you know, I'm relieved, and also I'm just happy with the way that things rolled out there, because a lot of teams felt like O'Keefe gave us the easy run in that France game, and I've got my own little conspiracy theory about that. The fact that he is now seen to have been against us in the semi, and we still pulled through, is a feather in our cap.
Was never
great.
Against us. Did you see that
I
last? That arm was always going to go up because Ox was always going to smash them.
Yes.
How sensational was Ox, eh?
Ox was amazing.
Dobber called it an off the ball last week. He said Ox will destroy anyone he comes up against for the reign of this World Cup. He was he had mongrel energy. That scrum just went up another level when he came on.
Yeah.
And you look at the veterans, Kitsi and Francois Haber, and they've been magnificent for the best part of 3 to 6 years.
Yeah.
But again, how much did France take out of them? Because they just didn't look like they were at the races. Ibn Etzebet, colossal against France, just looked like he had nothing left in the tank.
Yeah.
Sia the same.
Yeah.
And credit to Rassie and Jacques. Doesn't matter what your name is, what number you wear in your back. If they don't feel you're making a positive contribution to the game, they yank you. And they made their subs very early. Again, no disrespect to Mani, no slight on Mani's performance. When they pulled him on 31 minutes, it's because they realized this was going to be an arm wrestle and it was going to come down to a last kick or 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically an admission that they got their selections wrong. That's why they had to make those changes. And credit to them for having the guts to do that. It would have been, in some ways, it would have been easier for them to sort of ride it out and not take the heat that comes from that. So all credit to them for that. For me, you cannot, none of the players, there isn't a single Springbok player who I don't have utmost admiration for and respect. The Oaks have put themselves on the line in this World Cup. They've solved huge questions in these last two games to pull out the win. I feel like in a way, the players have bailed out the coaches over the last 2 games, and we need something great from the coaches in this one.
Don't you think, though, and then the way they won it, I mean, they were outstanding in parts against Ireland, could comfortably have got that win in the end, but for a decision that went against them. But sort of a fantastic test match. Then to come out and beat the hosts the way they did, scoring 4 tries to 3, surviving on 30% possession and field position. Just the ticker they showed, the heart that they showed. We talk about Eben Etzebeth that game, just probably the greatest game he's ever played for South Africa.
Yeah.
But then Nick Mallet said, potentially one of the flattest ones he's played a week later. But it was to be expected in a sense.
100%.
And that's why I felt it would be a messy victory for the Boks. I thought they would win it a bit more comfortably, but it would be messy because how do you lift yourself against a dogged English Bulldog type
Spot on.
team like England, who were always going to play negative? They were always going to try and keep the scoreboard down, frustrate us. It really was asking a lot for the same 23 to go out and do the business again when you had the fresh legs that were waiting in the stands. And I said early in the show, I was very surprised that they didn't tap into some of those fresh legs to start with, a kind of variation. Again, kudos to a guy like Franco Mostert, 18 tackles,
Jeez.
effective ones from 18. But I think there was a bit of surprise when he didn't get pulled, but Eben got pulled. Archia came on, and then he emptied the tank, Franco Mostert. And then the impact of a Kwagga Smith and a Dion Ferre. How good have those 2 blokes been?
Spot on. But I mean, on Franco, he was pulled early against France, right? And then he was able to go now against England. Absolutely. Adding the sort of terriers that come on in the second half, just absolute work rate, explosiveness, massive contributions.
But I mean, just an incredible performance for me because it showcased everything that you love about the Springbok team. They're a team that can win well. They're a team that can scrap. They can go to the gutters and come out there. And even when they went to the gutters, they produced a bit of magic to get themselves into a try-scoring range. And Archia's name and the Viking, he did the rest. And wow, it was a heart stopper. It's been 2 weekends of heart stoppers. But just proud to kind of support this team and to love this team for the way they played. And, you know, we're all confident that they can win this World Cup and win it back to back. But really, it's the final the world wanted. Maybe not up north, but the rugby world, the true traditionalists, wanted this final. All Blacks against Springboks.
Maybe not up north, but the rugby world. I love that. Glorious.
The 2 teams with 6 World Cups between them, one of them will have a 4th one, and that will be 7 out of 10. And then you add the great Australian side when they still were great, 2, and we give England 1, 100th minute drop goal off the wrong foot.
Lucky bounce.
Lucky bounce to get that one. So that's a 10% return for the Northern Hemisphere when it comes to World Cup titles. 90% for the big 3.
Right.
And we still include that Australian side in the big 3. Not so much this one.
Yeah,
What does it say to everyone about writing off the Southern Hemisphere?
Oh, yeah.
Did they peak in between World Cups, mate?
But listen,
Did Ireland peak in between World Cups?
but you have to give credit because even though it has rolled out so that the Southern Hemisphere teams are contesting the final, the Northern Hemisphere definitely pushed us. Like they were present at this World Cup. It wasn't like World Cups before where it was 1 or 2 teams.
They came to the party.
Big time.
They helped us make a party. But if you'll see, 3 of them have had to go home. And what's left is a bloke in black and a bloke in green and gold. Mate. It's mate against mate. It's Southern Hemisphere at its best. It's the traditional foes. It's the Bokke up against the All Blacks. It's the final everyone wanted in 2007, and then the All Blacks kind of got to Cardiff and never got out and had to go home and go play a Bledisloe Cup game against Australia. So, wow.
Mate,
16 years later, they arrived.
But it's terrifying that Fozzie may join the brave few who have won a World Cup, who've led the All Blacks to World Cup success. That is terrifying.
It is terrifying, but I think a lot of people will give this one to Joe Schmidt and to Mr.
True.
Ryan. They have
True.
looked a bit different when they were introduced. But all credit to what these All Blacks have done and how they've come back in this World Cup. I've been very dismissive of them in the leading to the World Cup. I thought it was vindicated in the way they got rolled by France. I mean, France, Antoine Dupont, Fabien Galtier, they must be sitting at home thinking, How? How are they in the final? We're not. How is the team in black in the final and we're not? Johnny Sexton must be pacing up and down, thinking he would give his whole career back just to be in that final. Not to be. The Springboks are there and the All Blacks. When you look at the game, I don't think the All Blacks will take that much out of the Boks semi-final. I think they would see, because they don't play that way, they would see it was conditions that suited that kind of dogfight. But what they will take out of it is that this South African side just doesn't go away.
That's 100% right. I mean, you cannot take anything out of the way that they played, because literally it's just guys treading water trying not to drown. So you'll take little from that. But the dog in this team, the fight in this team. I mean, we were talking about it on WhatsApp. At the end of the game there, the Boks almost went out of the World Cup with Frans Malherbe, Eben Etzebeth, Siya Kolisi and Dwayne Vermeulen sitting on the sidelines. We trusted the World Cup quest to the guys that came off the bench, less heralded players, and they stepped up. They have created a squad where everybody has world championship credentials, world champion credentials.
And then we had Willie there just to cause a bit of cuck at the end.
Mate, listen. Let me say this about Willie, right? I was like, why are we bringing this guy on now? But thank goodness that Willie Leroux was on the field, because when they marked that second high ball, he had the brains to say, scrum. We're going to scrum now. And everybody else was looking around. Maybe we should kick. He said, we are going to scrum now. And thank goodness for that, because that's what won the game.
Yes and no. I mean, that put them in a position to win a game. Ox still had to do his thing with the help of 7 other blokes.
He knew that was coming.
And then Polly still had to do his thing. So you were endorsed that Willie played?
In hindsight, thank goodness he was there. That somebody on the field had the brains to make that call in that position.
So there was calm that came in the end.
There was calm.
And his little emotional outburst is to be expected. I mean,
what do they say? If you're not rubbing, you're not racing.
Exactly. I mean, Willie was just very happy. And he told the English he was very happy.
Just telling them how excited
and
he
I
is.
can't believe the nonsense that come out from Bongi. I mean, does no one know Omkant is offside?
Exactly.
And Tom Curry plays offside all match and he wears white.
Yeah, he was shouting, ref, wit Omkant.
Exactly. I mean, Omkant means offside.
Yeah.
And, but in any case, it wasn't very, it was quite applicable to the player.
What, because he was offside?
Offside,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to give a descriptor of Tom Curry,
offside is a great one.
It's a great one to say. That guy's pretty much offside all the time.
Yeah.
He's omkant. And I'm just glad that they're basically gone, because who wants to go to the third and fourth playoff?
Mate, that is hard. Eh? That is motivation enough to win a semi.
Yo, did you read all the stuff on the English medium? That we weren't sportsmanlike.
Sure.
Do you know what? They thought it couldn't get worse than the Lion series in this cycle. And then it did. Because Ireland were expected to beat us. France were expected to beat us. And if they did, they were ranked 1 and 2 in the world going through that.
Yeah.
But England, God save the king. England, the bulldog, came back and got so close. And then we stepped up and then beat them. That must hurt.
We let that bulldog off the chain. I mean, some of those tactics. I don't know how many times we're going to put the ball in Freddie Stewart, the world's tallest fullback.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's outstanding. Look, we didn't play well.
We didn't play well at all.
But we scrapped.
Yeah, no, we did.
And like you say, we got the W. And in a World Cup semi-final, you only need 1 point.
Correct.
In a final, you only need 1 point.
Correct.
In a quarter-final, you only need 1 point.
Do you buy Jacques' whole thing about it's going to be a shootout, 30 points, blah, blah, blah? You don't think he's talking up, he's trying to get New Zealand to prep for something that's not coming?
Look, I don't think you're going to see anything different from the way New Zealand always plays. They have to play us with tempo. They want to take our big forwards left to right. They've got their own issues. I thought they were outstanding in many respects against an Argentinian side that how you back those guys all tournament, I don't know. Maybe you just like Australian coaches. Maybe you like old Mike Shaker. They were terrible. They were terrible against England. How they got their win against Wales, Gatlin will tell you maybe it was a good thing that they weren't there for the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
It was a good one for Wales to miss.
Yes.
But I thought New Zealand's out-of-hand kicking game was still very ordinary again. Some of the decision-making left a lot to be desired. And then you can guarantee that every match, Scott Barrett's going to give you a mindless brain implosion. Up by nearly 35 points or something, 5 meters from their try line, and you cynically tap the ball out of the scrum off, and you get yellow carded.
He's got to have some South African in that guy.
Yeah.
He's dumb enough to play for Falco, surely.
Yeah. He's reminiscent of a lot of our good, hard locks that played back in the day.
Giannis
Big, strong,
Rabuskakni.
and dumb. Man.
Physical,
My Odomiki.
but not the smartest.
No, and then the way they punished the rest of the team was they never put him back on. And they had to play the last 7 minutes with 14 by
That's
choice.
how bad he was. We'd rather play a man down.
By choice, because they were worried he's going to get another yellow, and that's
Yeah.
him out the World Cup final.
Yeah.
So their game management was very good. Richie Mohanga, 4 out of 8 off the tee,
Yep.
and didn't kick particularly well. And then we saw Will Jordan get the 3 tries, take him to 8 with Brian Habana, Julian Sevier, and the incomparable late John Olamu. And you have a theory that when Mohanga just had to draw, flip the pass, and it's the record breaker, Will Jordan. You said to me that he likes Will Jordan, but you think he likes Jonah a little bit more.
Correct, mate. There's no chance Willie Jordan's going to overtake John Olamu in the try-scoring stakes. He won't score against the Springboks because they're not going to pass him the ball, mate. Because if they pass him the ball and he touches it, he scores.
Can you imagine Argentina, England was going to be the World Cup final?
Yo.
Yeah, just Friday night, just before kickoff, I thought this could be a bit of a banana peel for the All Blacks because they had that incredible win against the Box at Ellis Park and then went home a week later and lost for the first time in history against the Pumas in Christchurch, of all places. So that would have been in the back of their minds. And it was kind of like those first opening 4 minutes. New Zealand didn't touch the ball, penalty, 3-0 to the Pumas. I thought, this could get a little bit interesting. And then it obviously didn't. New Zealand ran away with it. And I was quite relieved that, geez, it's not going to be Argentina. As much as I love that country,
Yeah.
I don't really particularly love the rugby team.
Yeah.
There's no Messi playing 10 for them, man. And glad that the All Blacks got through because this is the final I want in New Zealand against South Africa. Many respects I can't lose. But
Just putting that out there.
sorry, in the Irish, I'll
What
tap
Irish?
into that one during the UFC, okay? And then cometh our game. And I saw those conditions. And I just thought, okay, it's going to be a dogfight. But we'll get into the game and we'll eventually ride this one out. And I really did think the caliber of player
Totally.
that we would be good enough for a 2-score double-digit points differential. However, they were fatigued and they were flat.
Yeah.
Game management's going to be critical. Rassie's already obviously told, and Jacques has told the team who will be playing. We don't know that, or do we? What would you change? And how would you change it?
So I would make a few changes. I would want to make sure that I have some of my veterans on the field in the final 25 minutes. I feel like Ox is a great guy to start. He's done it before. We did it in the Lions series. He's high in confidence. He's fresh legs. Kitsy will relish the idea of coming off the bench, full guns, for 35 minutes, 30 minutes. So that's a change I would make. We have to play Bongi, who in many respects to me is our MVP, just because of how irreplaceable he is.
You will definitely start France.
Eben, I don't think you can put him on the bench. I think Eben has to start, and Franco Mostert-Sos has to go again. The question is, on the bench, do you go with 2 locks? You have to go 6-2 split, I think, but do you go 2 locks or no? The back row, I would start Jasper. I would have started Jasper this last game, and I'm not a huge Jasper Visa fan, but Dwayne, you can't ask that guy to play a quarterfinal, a semi-final, and now a final. 3 straight. A year and a half ago, Rassie was telling everyone he's got 5 games left in him. I think that was 15 tests ago. So Dwayne is a guy I would have come off the bench for his leadership in the last 30 minutes, for his ability to turn over the ball and all that sort of stuff. I'd have Jasper just absolutely run at the line and run into All Black shoulders in that first 30. So
you'd have Peter Steff,
Steff,
and Sia.
Yeah, I would start with Faf and Andre. No question, I would start with Faf and Andre. I don't care
And I take it Marnie's not in your 23 for the final.
That is actually a more difficult decision than I thought it would be to make. But for me, it comes down to, is it Marnie or is it Villy? And I feel like we've got a lot of fullback cover. We've got lots of guys in that team who can play fullback. So yes, there's the Villy experience factor, but whether we like it or not, Lebok has got K's on the clock at 10, doing his thing in the box. Have got a familiarity playing around him, and he is our secondary goal kicker. So maybe you have to have him in that at 23.
So at 6'2", are you going specialist scrum half? We're going to get to your forward replacements now.
Yeah, I'm going Kubus.
Okay, and then you're going
Mani.
So Lukanya
We haven't played him.
he's just got to watch from the stats.
He's got to watch from the stats. If they were going to play him, they would have played him already.
Kane Moody,
Very hot, very difficult to leave him out, but I feel like a 6-2 split is more important than what I think Kane and I think he adds massive cover potential, but you've got to have 6 forwards for this one.
does he come in at 13 for Jesse
No.
against the All Blacks?
No, not now. Not now. That'd be the wildest of wild. Listen, this is Rassie. I mean,
What would they have taken out of that 35-7 win, his performance at centre against that style of player? He looked so comfortable on the ball. One thing we know about these guys, Rassie and Jock, they'll make the big calls if they have to.
yeah,
As we saw with Jasper.
yeah.
As we've seen by pulling big name players early in games. But they spoke about unleashing Kane and Moody on the world, and they haven't really. Is it this week? Do they put him in? Does Kurtley Aronson miss out?
No, surely not.
No, I'm asking.
Yo.
He
I mean,
didn't. He struggled under some of those
Yeah.
bombs.
I've said from the beginning, I would have had Cheslin and Kanan as my wings, but they've invested in these guys, and now they've kind of got to see it through. I mean, it's a bit, yeah. I would be very surprised if they made those changes. Not because I don't believe in those players or think that could work, but for a World Cup final at this juncture, I'd be very surprised. Because last week it was all about form.
So you leaving Villy Leroux out of your 23, even though you said thank goodness he was there
Yeah.
for his composure.
Yeah.
Is that not a contradiction?
It is a huge contradiction, a massive contradiction. But you have to leave somebody out. And so you're looking at Villy, Marnie, Kanan for 23 if you go 6-2.
Why are you picking Marnie if he doesn't start? Why are you picking him on the bench?
Because there's a potential for Andre Pollard to break his knee in the first 2 minutes.
And then can't Damian Willemse go to 10?
Damian Willemse can go to 10, but he's not a guy that they've played there recently a lot, and he's our starting fullback. So it's a 2-for-1 change. We saw what happened against Wales and Cape Town when they made 68 changes for one injury. It kills all the continuity you built up, that cohesion. It hurts that. So
Look, I think they're going to go Marnie to start and Pollard on the bench again. And 40 minutes probably for Andre Pollard. And he closes out a game.
yes,
And hopefully wins South Africa the World Cup. But I think if they put him on in the 23, it's not to come and chase a lost cause. It's basically to start when there's less pressure on him in the beginning. He can play his natural game and kind of build on that kind of continuity he had at Twickenham.
Yeah.
Kick to the corners. I think you're going to see for the first time in this tournament, you're going to see the Bok pack start playing with that pack because it's the one area where they think they have the upper hand on New Zealand. And they will really need an improved performance from what we've seen. They've scrapped well, but they haven't been very cohesive. And the line-out in the semi-final and final was not a factor for the Boks. The scrum fortunately became a factor against England. It was taken out of the game by and large against France, even though we won 2 scrum penalties on their ball. So New Zealand also won't want to be giving us scrums.
100%.
And they certainly won't want to be giving us line-outs. And their set piece has been surprisingly good in the latter stages of the pool matches, and I thought it was very good against Ireland, and again very good against Argentina. They look composed. Sam Whitelock, wow! I mean, to still do what he's doing, he seems to have come alive in the last 100 plus minutes of the World Cup.
I thought you were going to say tests.
And them having Brodie Retallick to come off the bench. Potentially Scott Barrett to come off the bench if they then start with Brodie, and which I think they'll start with Brodie and Sam Whitelock for a final. Shannon Frizzell has been big for them. There's not a like-for-like replacement. If he doesn't play, they lose a lot. And I think they got the hooker balance right against Argentina. I don't think you can go in with Cody Taylor and Dan Coles.
No, not against the Boks.
I think they really do need the power Tongan impact comes off the bench. But yeah, I thought they were very good, and they will be good in the final. But we will also be good in the final. It's going to be a fascinating week to see what kind of mind games are being played. There's just such respect between the two teams, such incredible rivalry between the two nations. And like I keep on saying, it's the one everyone wants today. If you love rugby, you want to see the Springboks play the All Blacks, and you want to see them play it in the city of love in Paris. As for England, you can always take two things out of the English. Good for a passport, and I've been a beneficiary of that. And just good for that lap of honor when they lose. They are magnificent the way they do that lap of honor. and they will feel good about themselves. Heroes again, beaten heroes.
But they do deserve some respect there. I mean, for that team to produce what I thought they were going to take a pounding in this World Cup. They did really well.
Beaten heroes. You like the underdog.
I do love the underdog. I think this England team does deserve some credit for the form that they had and the knocks that they were taking, regardless of the who's and the whys.
Unluckiest guy
They
in
ran
the England
the box
side,
close.
George Ford.
I don't know if unlucky is the right word. It's just that's a decision that should have been taken a long time ago about which way they were going to go. It was either or. And the fact that they waited right until the semi-final to make the calls, probably a bit tough on him.
All right, when you look at the World Cup now, we've got two teams left. Only two standing. Green and gold and black. SA Rugby's latest issue, you guys. How many of these issues have you pounded out over the last 3 months, 3 or 4 issues?
Yeah, we're doing one a week at the moment.
No, it's incredible, and rightly so, because the box are there. When you look at the World Cup in totality, anything surprise you about this World Cup in terms of team performances, individuals? Did anyone not come to the party, or was there a name that popped up and you thought, wow?
I thought Tuisova from Fiji was going to take over. I expected him to score the try of the tournament. I thought he was going to have a really great World Cup. Obviously, some family tragedy in his life, but Fiji did great. I don't think we quite expected them to get as far as they did. And then I was a bit surprised by how. Surprised is maybe the wrong word, but the minnows were really not worth the time. Anytime they came up against Tier 1 nations, it was really ugly. Did enjoy watching them play against each other. There were some great performances there. And then the playoffs really impressed me. I knew it would go up a level, but the playoffs were superb. Even though the semi-finals, people are saying were let down because of the draw and whatever. If you look at on balance, we had 4 quarterfinals, 2 semi-finals, and with the exception of the Argentina All Blacks game, which almost put me to sleep, the rest were great games. So, yes.
Sorry, you said you put you to sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't like one-sided games.
Well, just
Lots of tries. You don't like tries.
I like it when both teams play. It's more fun.
Your Argentinian team certainly didn't pitch up at this World Cup, eh?
No.
Just for a few minutes against Wales. But
Who impressed you?
Oxen Chair, Andre Pollard, and magnificent.
Any non-South Africans?
Really? Do I have to go there? Let me see.
Carl Steyn.
Duan van der Merwe. I was impressed by Mark Tillier. Impresses me.
Yeah.
He's a very good winner. Eh?
Yeah.
I think he's going to cause us a few problems. He's an exceptional winner, and the leg drive that he's got, and he kind of makes the meters, and he's busy, and he's an intelligent footballer. So he's definitely up there. I've been impressed with. I think the All Black pack as a collective post that French game, but shows just how much they rely on a Brody Retallick and a Shannon Frizzell. They weren't there in that open against France, and they kind of went nowhere. Looking around, Ireland again, good without being exceptional. So I can't say they impressed me. And then I think one of the big disappointments for me was Scotland. I thought they were brave against us for 60 minutes. And I really expected them to come out and make a statement against Ireland. They just never did. So they got blown away. And then France had everything going for them at home, the draw, the crowd, and played some sensational rugby against us in the first 60 minutes. But all things considered, should have backed themselves to be more than a score out against us. And they'll be very disappointed that they didn't get past the quarterfinals, regardless of who they played. Who impressed me the most? Boga! The box, man.
Yeah.
They've shown they can win with style and they can dance. But wow.
And they can win without Malcolm Marx. I mean, if I told you before the World Cup, he's out. And this is how he performed.
Well, if you said, like you said earlier, and let's include Malcolm in that, there's 35 minutes to go in a World Cup semi-final. We're 15-6 down, 12-6 down. And you look up and Sio Khaleesi's been subbed. Eben's been subbed. Kits is coming off soon. Dwayne's been subbed. Malcolm Marx is sitting at home. Lukhanyo Am sitting in the stands. That's 7 regulars that you'd back to play through about 70 minutes.
Yeah.
World-class players. That's what's incredible about this team. That's what's been built over 6 years.
Yeah.
And we are a World Cup type team. We don't always get that consistency in between World Cups. We're not necessarily going to win 80% of our games in regular seasons, but we know how to win a Lions series without any prep. We know how to go to a World Cup and win, and we know how to play playoffs. And it takes dog mentality, and it just takes heart and understanding that if it's an arm wrestle, you just got to back yourself to be a bit stronger. I always go back to the final in 2007 when all the English media started writing about, can the Boks replicate the 36-0 in the final? Can they score 4 tries? Because that's what they wanted, us to play an opening freestyle game. And Eddie Jones, who was a technical advisor for the Boks, said to Jake White, mate, I've lost a World Cup in the 100th minute. Let's win one. Basically in the 100th minute. All we need is one more point. That gold looks a lot better than the silver. And I think that's also what people need to understand going into Saturday's final. It's a World Cup final. And who cares how we play, how we do it,
100%.
as long as we do it.
100%.
And the mood of this country would have been a lot different had we lost an exhibition type game 38-36.
Spot on.
Then it would have been 16-15.
Spot on.
More frail Springbok teams would have folded, buckled in those conditions. Everything went against them in Paris on Saturday night. This team has got heart, but they've got mental strength. And it's the one thing that every Kiwi, even Sir JK, has to admit, they just don't go away.
I love that. I mean, isn't that what you want to be known for?
Completely.
Hey? You don't want to be known for the guy with the great combinations, but you can't take a punch. You want to be the guy who can take the punch. Hey?
And throw one. And give that hammer blow.
Yeah.
35-7, I think, is going to be more telling in the build-up this week than people are giving it credit for. That was our last experience of the All Blacks, was absolutely smashing them. We know we can do it.
Yeah.
How do we manage the players? Do we go the 6-2 split? Zels says 6-2. I agree with him, 6-2. I also agree with him, changes, tweaks, not radical changes. As much as I'd want to see Kane and Moody there, you've got to go with Jesse Kriel now.
Agreed.
You've got to back Jesse, yeah?
Agreed.
Rassie, you've got to back him, eh? And All Blacks pretty much see the same 23 coming out. That's all they've got, eh?
I mean, they've only got one lock at the World Cup, so they have to play.
All right. And they've got 2 good young props, eh? It's going to be a wonderful week. I'll be writing a few opinion pieces. Zels and the boys in SA Rugby will be giving you all the news from France. And I can tell you it's going to be a respectful week. There's not going to be any trash talk.
Lies!
That's not how they operate, these guys. But it's the old enemy, it's the old foe. It's Bokke against the All Blacks World Cup Final 2023. One of those teams will leave with a record, a 4th world title. And that would mean 9 out of the 10 won by Southern Hemisphere teams. So much for that Northern dominance.